What is going on, y'all? Welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where we are training up warriors, not weaklings. Today is Thursday, December 18th, in the year of our Lord 2025. It is almost Christmas. How's everybody doing on their shopping? Anyway, this is where we come to get equipped to stand firm, speak truth, and fight back against the culture that is trying to steal your faith, your family, and your freedom. Because this is a spiritual battle, folks. And it never takes a day off. This battle is always raging. So we are done pulling punches, the gloves are off, and it is go time. So be sure to follow us at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Getter, Truth Social, and be sure to subscribe to our Rumble and YouTube channels as well. We are at 697 subscribers, I believe. So we are just 3 away from hitting that 700 mark. So please share this with everyone that you know so that we can go into the new year at 700 subscribers or more. And if you want to let everyone know that you are in this fight, go ahead and grab your gear at missionreadymen.com. Click Shop 7 Armors and check out all of the great designs that we have there. And it looks like we're at 698 subscribers. So thank you all very, very much. All right. Now that business is done, let's get after it. And I thought I had my show all lined up, and then at the last minute, I watched President Trump's speech, and so we're going to talk about that, a major shakeup in the DOJ, so we're going to talk about that as well, and then we're going to get into what I had originally planned. So let's see if we can speed run through some of this stuff. So President Trump, he addressed the nation last night. It was about 18 minutes long. And it wasn't anything breaking news. I mean, I expected him to talk about Venezuela, but he didn't mention that at all. This wasn't like breaking news. This was a reminder. This was meant to be a reminder of what is actually happening that the American public does not want to publicize. The midterms are coming, and this was a speech that he had to give. He had to retake control of the narrative and remind everyone who's paying attention of exactly what has been accomplished. And we're seeing a lot of division among conservatives for various reasons that I'm not going to get into right now. One in particular that's just ridiculous, but we'll leave that aside for the time being. And he just wanted to get ahead of the chaos that is about to unfold during these midterm elections. And he framed this from the outset as him fixing the mess that he inherited. And of course, you had some ridiculous, I can't remember her name on CNN. Well, you know what, let's, I think I actually have it. Let's take a look. Because this, and of course, Scott Jennings was there to provide some much needed clarity on what was actually happening. Let's listen to this.
Scott, do you get the sense that this is really going to be, I mean, you keep saying that like they're going to talk about what they inherited. Like America, like this guy's been, he's been president for a year now. I mean, at what point does that fall flat with people?
I don't know. Obama blamed George W. Bush for 8 years.
Exactly.
I mean, look, there has to be a debate. We're going to have an election, so we're going to have a debate. And right now you have Democratic Party with an 18% approval rating with some kind of amnesia about what they did to support Joe Biden's destruction of the American economy for 4 years. He can't let that go. I mean, if we're going to have an election and have a debate, you have to lay out what we're for and what we're doing, what we inherited. They got the shovels, we got the ladders. I mean, that's the nature of a political campaign. I also think he's going to have to continue to sell the big, beautiful bill, the tax cuts, the deregulation, what they've done on energy. Gas prices are low, and they do believe they are going to see an economic boom in the first quarter. I interviewed Kevin Hassett today. He and Bessent and the economic guys are very confident that the things they did this year are going to inure to their benefit in the new year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As usual, Scott Jennings is bringing the heat and letting everyone know that there is an alternative, well, not an alternative. There is the correct narrative that we need to, the way we need to be looking at this stuff. And CNN, obviously, they're just a bunch of left-wing propagandists. And he's there to let them know that that is completely false. But President Trump, in his speech, he had to establish that he is trying to fix what Biden and his team broke. Stabilize the economy, which is what he's doing. And they hate the fact that gas prices are down, food prices are not down as much as gas, but they're coming down. And he's just, he was on fire. That was the first thing I noticed watching that speech last night. He was not calm and deliberate like he often is in these speeches. He was fired up, and I was happy to see it, because he had to make sure that everyone understood that he has things trending in the right direction. Inflation is down. We're looking at getting back to energy independence. The border is secure. He just wanted to let everyone know that he's on top of it, that things are going in the right direction. And it wasn't for, it wasn't for the base. It wasn't for people who support him, because this stuff we already know. We already know this stuff. We're locked in. And despite whatever disagreements we may have with him on some of the things he says and some of the things he may do, overall, we're locked in. His message was, for all intents and purposes, things may not be perfect. Things may not be, you may be frustrated with the way some things are right now, but compare it to where we were a year and a half ago. And if you are honest with yourself, if you are intellectually honest, you know that we are in a much, much better position than we were the last year of Biden's, well, his staff's administration, because he wasn't doing anything except drooling on himself. Yeah, I said it. The biggest thing, though, the thing the best part of that speech was the warrior dividend. And he announced that he is going to be sending all active duty military members, which is about 1.4 million active duty service members, 1,776 warrior dividend. And this is in honor of our 250th anniversary coming up next year, our founding in 1776. I think this is an absolutely fantastic idea. This was not a handout. This was not some sort of stimulus. This was his recognition of their service. And I think that's fantastic. He framed it as showing respect for the military and giving them a tangible token of appreciation for what they do. And of course, they could always use a raise. I think that goes without saying. And maybe with the tariffs, because he said he's paying for it with the tariff revenue that we've gotten. And maybe if we can sustain that over the long haul, maybe that will lead to some raises for our men and women in uniform. This was a speech he had to give. If he didn't give this speech, the midterms would be in an even worse position than they're at right now in terms of Republican control. The midterms are approaching, and things could be looking better for Republicans coming up. But this speech, I think, sets the narrative, sets the tone for the next year to come, leading up to the midterms in November. And if he keeps this up, and if the people who are running follow suit and talk about all the success that this administration has had, I think we have a really, really good chance of maintaining control and even maybe expanding it. If we can make sure that we get the message out, get the successes, let everyone know what the successes are. So I applaud President Trump for that. I thought it was a great speech. Some people are saying it was his greatest speech. We'll see about that. We'll see how that plays out. But it was a great speech. And I'm looking forward to how it sets the tone for the midterms coming up. All right, really quick. Dan Bongino announced that he is leaving the FBI. I said when he took the job that it was a mistake. And I think if you were paying attention to his tenure, he wasn't in front of the camera a lot, not like Pam Bondi. But when he was in front of the camera, you could just see there was something different. And like I said, if you were paying attention, early on in his tenure, you could see that things were not going quite the way he wanted. Let's take a look at this, because this was telling, and I knew that he was not going to last the entire 4 years after seeing this.
I mean, I gave up everything for this. I mean, you know, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this, and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there he gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. You know, I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment. But I stare at these four walls all day in D.C., you know, by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but I mean separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, you know, we love each other, and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You straighten out the FBI, you're moving buildings. There's a lot of change.
I got one more thing. I gave...
That whole interview, I saw the whole interview, but that clip itself was telling. He looked like I don't want to say a beaten man, but he looked like he realized, because he took the job in February. Interview was in May. He hadn't been there that long, but he already could see that what he was embarking on was going to be a lot more difficult than he anticipated. And I'm sure he anticipated it was going to be tough. Sackhead Sean in the chat says, I think he thought it was 10 times worse than he thought it was. I think it's even more than that. And BZ says he couldn't have the influence he thought he could. It's that far gone. And yeah, I don't think the FBI is unfixable, but I don't know that, maybe it is. Maybe it is unfixable. But yeah, I agree, BZ. And that was only a few months into his tenure. And then not only that was in May. In August, they named a co-deputy director. So if you didn't see it coming from this interview, you had to see it coming from that. Now, Andrew Bailey, from what I know of him, is going to be pretty good in the role. But this was inevitable, I think. And to be perfectly honest, I'm surprised he lasted this long. I really am. And he mentioned in that interview the sacrifices that he made. And he acknowledged he was aware of them when he took the job. But I think he saw that the sacrifices he made were not worth it. If you think the sacrifices you're making are worth it, you're going to have a different demeanor than he had. You're going to have a completely different demeanor. You're going to be like, yeah, I made these sacrifices, but I am doing the job. And I think he realized in this moment, or before this moment, obviously, that the sacrifices just were not worth what he was able to accomplish. And then there's the whole stigma. I think the Epstein files, what they're saying are going to be released, are going to be coming out soon after he's already gone. So there could be the idea that he's not happy with the way things are going down and he doesn't want to be associated with it when it happens. That's also a possibility. And to that, adding to what I thought was him being somewhat of a beaten man, there's this interview he did with Maria Bartiromo.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
When I saw that, and this was also in May, when I saw that, and I think this actually took place before that interview that I played before. When I saw that, I don't know. I am, like I said, I'm surprised he lasted this long. Because it looked like, to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but it looked to me like he wanted to say a lot more and couldn't. And hated the fact that he had to say what he said. That's just me. And Sackett, it's entirely possible that it was pressure from his wife on top of everything. Well, yeah. I think so. I think that's not only possible, but I think that given the fact that he wasn't able to effectuate the change that he thought he could, and his wife, like he said, struggling, I think that was oh, BJJ 1977 says he looks like a kidnapped victim reading a note. Yeah, that perfect analogy. So it looks like he's going to return to his show, like President Trump alluded to. And to me, when President Trump made that, I don't have the clip, but when President Trump made that comment about him wanting to return to his show, to me, that was kind of a slight dig. I don't think that there's going to be like a falling out between Trump and Bongino, but I think that was kind of a dig. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So there's going to be a shakeup. Well, maybe not. Maybe Andrew Bailey will slide right into that position. There were rumors that he was brought on board to take Pam Bondi's spot. We'll see how that all plays out. The FBI wanted, well, the people who are in charge now wanted change. And I think that they realized that the change is not going to be anywhere near as immediate as they would have hoped, as everyone wants. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how that plays out. All right. The elephant in the room, the thing that everybody's talking about right now, the shooting at Brown University. And at this point, it's beyond that. It's the complete Keystone Cop vibe that you're getting from the Providence PD. Now, just before I went live, I saw that there is a report that they recovered live rounds and DNA from the scene. I don't know how true that is. I've only seen it in one outlet. Fox is reporting it. So we'll see what that brings. I mean, that literally just like a minute before I went live, I saw that on CFP. So we shall see. But there's not, and it's not just the shooting at Brown, but we're gonna get into the Keystone Cop aspect of it. But there was also a shooting in Massachusetts of an MIT professor. And there's a lot of speculation around that as well. And when there's no clarity, when there's no clear direction from the authorities, there's a vacuum. There's an information vacuum, and vacuums fill up quick. So we have the shooting in Brown, and it was in a class review session. I think we're all familiar with the details at this point, such as they are. The Providence police, the evidence that they claim they recovered notwithstanding, have not given us a motive, have not ruled in or out the idea of an ideological hit, even though there are multiple reports now from students that the shooter shouted Allahu Akbar. I think we all kind of suspected that anyway. And the Providence PD just stonewalling that is fueling the speculation. In fact, let's take a look at this report from Carolyn Rain. And this was a couple of days ago, and the speculation has only gotten worse since then.
The police did a press conference yesterday, and they would not confirm what the shooter yelled out before he started shooting. So you had a room of 60 students, 11 which have been shot, 2 are now dead. But that means that there are, at least, they said somewhere around 60, 40 students who are in there who could confirm what this man shot. At least 5 students that I have seen have confirmed on the record in media interviews saying that he yelled Allahu Akbar. Well, I think that that's pretty relative information. I think that that would matter as there's a massive search for the shooter. Did he yell Allahu Akbar? Because then we should be looking for a, free Palestine terrorist. And Reddit yesterday, by the way, had to shut down the Brown University board because Free Palestine students were celebrating Ella Cook's death. The police.
Of course they were. Of course they were. It's going to take a lot to convince me that this was not, this was not Muslims. I'm going to need definitive proof that it was not. Because as far as I'm concerned, my default position at this point, and I said this on social media the other day, my default position at this point is whenever there's violence, if it is not immediately obvious that it's gang related, then it's Muslims. You can call me any kind of phobe you want, whatever. I couldn't care less, because that's the world we're living in right now. That is the world that we're living in right now. Unless it is immediately obvious in Chicago or in any pick a leftist city where there's rampant gang violence, unless it is obvious that it was a drive-by, that it was gang-related, drug-related, unless it was obvious, as far as I'm concerned, Muslims did it, prove me wrong. Phobe, yep. As Dan Bongino used to say, it's the phobic phobophobe. Yes, I will own that. I will wear that with a badge of honor. And BZ says history has proven it. Yeah, it has. It has. This is the world we're living in right now. And just to further flesh that out, I mean, the class that was attacked was taught by a professor with ties to the Jewish community, and she taught. It was an economics class, but she taught Jewish studies as well. Ella Cook, one of the victims, was a prominent conservative on a campus that was as liberal as it can get. So she was very well known on campus. So there's that. There's the Allahu Akbar report, and the police just are glossing that over. And look, do I have this? I saw it and I can't remember yes. And this, talking about Keystone Cops. When I saw this was the icing on the cake.
And that is typical for that academic space.
So that right there is the mysterious campus safety chief, Rodney Chapman. Funny, we haven't really heard from him. Where's he been? Well, we just discovered the Brown University police chief isn't really a big fan of policing. He once said this: communities don't want policing done to them. How this guy came to Brown is a crazy story. He was the head of campus security at the University of Utah. And right after he was hired there, he was immediately suspended because he didn't have the proper credentials. Utah then told him, we're going to fire you or you're going to have to resign. What's it going to be? So Rodney resigned, and Brown said, we'll take you. And right before this shooting, Brown's police union issued a vote of no confidence in Chief Rodney. The chief's own men accused Rodney of endangering officers and creating a toxic workplace culture. Rodney should know the campus better than anyone, but all week he's been hiding under his desk. He's obviously completely unqualified. Brown's the most liberal Ivy League school, and they take DEI more seriously than safety. The school's been under intense pressure from the Palestinian students. The president, who was a no-show at today's presser, has been heckled for years by Muslim underclassmen. She always bends the knee, but they heckle her anyway.
The fact that they're not even acknowledging, and there's more to this that I'm going to show you in a second, but the fact that they're not even acknowledging the possibility that this was Islamic violence, and there are, and that Ella Cook was targeted. There are reports, I haven't confirmed them, but there are reports that I've seen that she was shot 10 times. If that's true, then it's very clear that she was the target. And then the question becomes why. But let's listen to some more of this, because there's a bombshell in this report that I was blown away.
Over the summer, radical left human rights groups demanded Brown disable their security cameras so Palestinian activists could raise hell under the radar. Did they cave? We asked. No response.
Of course not.
It's not just Brown. The whole city is a DEI mess. You know who else was at the press conference? The Providence City Council Chief of Staff is a genderless bisexual who was arrested for protesting at Trump Tower this year.
Genderless how does bisexual implies two genders? I can't even.
Meanwhile, the police chief could be compromised. Turns out the chief's nephew was sentenced to 22 years in federal prison for running one of the largest fentanyl rings in Rhode Island.
The chief's nephew. How is that possible?
And Mayor Smiley promoted him to chief knowing his family was trafficking.
Providence is a complete and total disaster. From the top down. Wow. And so Keystone Cops is the only way you can describe this. And the fact that they found live rounds and DNA, can you even trust that report? What are the chances that they're just putting that out there to try and take some of the heat off? Second chance as the commander was promoted because he's an entire yes man and the mayor would run the show. Well, yeah, I mean, the mayor is obviously running the show. I mean, you saw the video of the guy telling, I'm not sure who it was, but the guy telling the commander that they were using the wrong word, that custody was the wrong word. I mean, just, if you're a police chief, you shouldn't need somebody telling you what words to use in a press conference. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Exactly, Sean says it's entirely possible, but of all the info they have and haven't released, why would you release that and not have that be the ace in the hole? Well, yeah, there's that. But I mean, how can you not question everything at this point? So we're just going to have to wait and see how this plays out. Maybe something will happen that will require the feds to step in and take over the investigation. not saying that that's going to be that much better, but I mean, it's got to be better. I mean, it's got to be better than what we got going on right now. Got to be. But there's another case I want to talk about, and it's the case of the MIT professor who just a couple of days after the Brown shooting was killed at his home in Brookline, Massachusetts. Also, no suspect, no motive, although I do have a lot more confidence in, because I think the Mass State Police have taken over this investigation, I have a lot more confidence in them than I do the Providence PD, for now. But this MIT professor, his name is Nuno Loureiro, from Portugal, Jewish, had very pro-Israel views. And so there's speculation that this was also Islamic terror, a hit put out by Islam. Like I said, until proven otherwise, I'm just going to assume that this is Islamic terror, especially given the fact that the guy is Jewish and he's a prominent nuclear scientist who was doing research that could alter the way we power the world if he's successful. He's only 47 years old, and he was one of the most prominent figures in that field. So there's also speculation that it was energy companies that wanted to do him in because he was on the verge of potentially putting them out of business. Who knows? But again, without any evidence, without any direction from the police, like I said, vacuums fill. Sackhead Sean says, I don't know, the current track record for the Mass State Police in recent years isn't exactly a stellar history. CPAC used to be good. I don't know anymore. Well, I will defer to you because I'm not up on as up on Mass State Police or Massachusetts Police as I used to be. So that doesn't bode well, does it? So as I said, I'm always going to default to Islamic terror at this point. We've seen this before. We've seen this before. Campuses become battlegrounds. We have been seeing it repeatedly over the past few years. And just because this man was shot in his home as opposed to being on campus, that doesn't mean a whole lot. Yes, there is a reason that they're called massholes. I am well aware of that. Well aware. So what are we to do with this lack of information, with this lack of clarity? The only thing we can do is speculate. Because when these institutions fail, there's no trust. When the institutions fail, you can't trust them. And every vague, every evasive statement just fuels that distrust. There was a time when people could just assume that others were acting in good faith. If you assume that these days, you're a fool. You are a fool. you have to question everything because we've been lied to so much, or just not told anything, as the case with what's going on at Brown University and MIT. And so if you can't assume good faith, then you assume the worst. You assume cover-ups. You assume complicity. The chaos that we're seeing was entirely avoidable and was entirely created by the institutions that we're supposed to put our trust in. And until these institutions communicate clearly and with some level of competence, which has been sorely lacking, all of this is going to continue. It's going to continue, and whatever competence is left in these institutions is just going to bleed out. And that's just gonna lead to more speculation, more chaos, and it's gonna get harder and harder for these people to clean it up. Sean says the chief of Brown University was a DEI hire. Yeah. I mean, I think that's obvious. I mean, he got fired from a university in Utah, I forget which one it was, because he didn't have the right credentials. Now, someone wants to give the benefit of the doubt and say, well, he was qualified, but he didn't have the right state credentials for the state of Utah, whatever. That's more grace than I'm willing to give at this point. It's obvious that pretty much everyone in the loop in Providence is incompetent. There's no other way to put it. The chief of Providence PD is related to drug traffickers, some of the biggest on the East Coast. The campus police chief is a DEI hire. The mayor is a pro-Palestine homosexual. I mean, the whole thing is a mess. The whole thing is a chaotic mess. So I don't know how this is going to play out. I pray that we finally get some clarity, but it's not looking too good right now. So I'm just going to have to put my faith in him that this will play out the way it's supposed to, and that we get justice for Ella and justice for Professor Loureiro. If it wasn't a sad situation, it would be a hysterical comedy poking satire at a poorly run. Yes. I mean, it's a comedy of errors. And you're right, if it wasn't for the tragic deaths of those students and the injuries that the other ones sustained, yes, this would be a comedy of errors and just sad. Anyway, excuse me. Anyway, folks, let's get a word in from our sponsor. And our sponsor for today's show is Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is the country's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And it is more important now than ever to make sure that you are spending your resources with companies, with entities, with organizations that fight for the same things that you believe in. And that's why we switched to Patriot Mobile. They don't pay lip service to the values that we hold dear. They actually back them up. They actually put their money where their mouth is. A portion of every dollar that you spend with them goes to pro-life, pro-family, and pro-freedom organizations. So right now you can get a free month of service when you go to patriotmobile.com and use promo code Jackson, or call 972-PATRIOT and use promo code Jackson. Defend freedom with every call, every text, every month. Switch to patriotmobile.com today. patriotmobile.com/Jackson. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch my good friend Sackhead Sean, who's in the chat right now, with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. The Reader of Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ, who's also in the chat with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Please like and subscribe to all those great shows. We are at 698 subscribers. Only need 2. Please share this with everyone that you know, and pray for us that we have a huge breakthrough, that we get 700 this year, and that very early on in 2026 we reach 1,000. That would be outstanding. So please like and subscribe and share it with everyone that you know, because we want to reach as many people as we possibly can. All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Going back to the previous segment for a minute, BZ says everything is manipulated, coerced, controlled, shadowed, hidden, message behind a curtain of lies, deceit, and deflection. Sad but true. Sad but true. It's a bad Babylon Bee skit. Yeah. Unbelievable. Anyway, I want to talk about this. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I want to start talking about the Second Amendment more. I got away from it. That was one of the biggest things that actually got me into this space. And I've gotten away from it a little bit, among some other things that we're going to talk about later. But Tampon Tim Walz signed a couple of executive orders designed to infringe on your Second Amendment rights. There wasn't a huge spike in gun crime. He's just mad because he didn't get his way. The Minnesota legislature did not pass the legislation that he was backing. And so he threw a temper tantrum and signed a couple of executive orders. Let's see. The Gun Owners Caucus in Minnesota put out this press release. Let's take a look at that. Governor Tim Walz signed 2 executive orders related to gun violence prevention after failing to gain enough support in the legislature for his proposed bans on commonly owned firearms. Of course, he wanted them to ban assault rifles. And in his speech, I don't know if I actually pulled that up, but in his speech, he said that he mentioned defining assault weapons. Yeah, I do have it. We'll we'll talk about that here in a second. The newly announced, or one of the executive orders that he signed was a statewide safety council. And the newly announced statewide safety council raises serious concerns. The council is composed entirely of appointed officials and pro-gun control advocates with no representation from the Second Amendment community. Well, of course, because they can't handle any kind of dissent at all. At all. He is, and I'm sure you all remember during the campaign when he was campaigning on the VP, his epic failure trying to load a shotgun when he was allegedly going hunting. Oh my goodness, I played that on the show. That was absolutely hilarious. Let's take a listen to Tampon Timmy go through his little temper tantrum when he was announcing these executive orders.
June 14th, they've been saying it since that horrific day at Annunciation. They continue to say it. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. And I've traveled across the state. These folks have traveled across the states. I've said in town halls, the deep sense of frustration, the deep sense of anger, the deep sense of grief and loss around gun violence. And to watch people stand and deflect and word salad about everything of this, there's too damn many guns and the wrong types of guns on the street. And I don't want to hear how do you define assault weapon. I damn sure can assign what it is and describe what it is and tell you what it does. And unfortunately, we have a whole bunch of parents now who know a lot more about what these weapons.
Well, if you can, how come you haven't yet? You've been asked a bunch of times, but you still haven't. Why not? There have been tragedies, yes, we understand this. Tragedies, unfortunately, happen, especially when laws are not enforced. But this follows a pattern. Criminal violence, emotional response at a press conference, executive action, rinse and repeat. It happens all the time. Every time they have this major push for more infringements on our rights, it always follows a crime committed by people who already ignored laws. Criminals are going to criminal. They couldn't care less about your little gun laws. And if they're just nuts, well, then they care even less than that. So one of these executive orders is an expansion of the extreme risk protection orders, the red flag laws. More reporting, more databases, which you're not supposed to have, more quote unquote training. And I've always said about red flag laws that it's a complete inversion of due process. And they are all about due process when it comes to rounding up illegal invaders. Well, then due process is paramount. But when it comes to a scorned ex calling up the police and saying, my ex-boyfriend or my ex-husband has guns and I'm afraid, even though he did absolutely nothing to threaten them. They'll just come and take those guns. And then good luck getting them back. But that's different, right? Unbelievable. And then there's the safety council, like I mentioned, full of unelected bureaucrats who obviously are anti-gun, pro-gun control. The mission, from what I could tell, is just vague and rife with the opportunities for mission creep. And none of it, absolutely none of it, targets the people who it should target, and that's criminals. This stuff never, ever targets the criminals who are committing these crimes. Ever. All it ever does is put more of a burden on law-abiding citizens. More of a burden and more of an infringement on law-abiding citizens. They see the Second Amendment as a second-class right. And the things that they put in place, the things that they want for the Second Amendment would never, ever fly when it comes to the First Amendment. I mentioned that in the article I wrote last week. This stuff would never fly for any other right. And that's because they don't see the Second Amendment. They don't see the right to keep and bear arms as a right. Because they want you dependent and they want you afraid. This is, as I said, a temper tantrum because the legislature didn't cooperate with his wishes. He didn't. This isn't leadership. This is an end around. This is an end around of the democratic process. The process that everyone on the left seems to hold so dear until that democratic process doesn't get them the results that they want. Everything that they wanted failed. So-called assault weapons bans, magazine limits, other restrictions. They failed to pass. And so this is his temper tantrum. And if you can't get your ideas through the legislature, if it can't survive a policy debate, then it shouldn't survive an executive order, executive fiat. Now, the gun owner, what's it called? The Gun Owners Caucus in Minnesota, they don't seem too concerned about it. They say that these orders don't really have a lot of teeth to them. They're still going to fight it, but it shouldn't reach this pitch. The right to keep and bear arms was specifically written and designed to resist this kind of tyranny. Rights are not optional. Despite politicians' emotions. And think about this. Think about this. if executive orders, when it came to when it comes to the Second Amendment, if executive orders restricting our right to keep and bear arms were effective, why is Chicago such a hellhole? Why is New York so dangerous? Why are all these places where they have these strict gun policies, why are they all so dangerous? All right. Let's move on, because there's something else I wanted to get to, and I didn't really want to get into this again, but I've been seeing so much in my feeds about this that I want to just touch on it again quickly. The less self-appointed, self-described, describe themselves as a party of compassion, that they're the decent ones, that they're the moral ones. They have this moral superiority. But if you notice, that only applies to certain people. And I'm talking about the reaction to Trump's reaction to Rob Reiner's death. And I get it. It's not really that important, but it's just been bothering me that these people have such short memories. Such short memories. Not only going back to their reactions to Charlie Kirk's assassination, that was just beyond the pale. But I'm going to make this specific to Rob Reiner, Trump, and I'm going to go back to Rob Reiner's reaction to Rush Limbaugh's cancer diagnosis. Rob Reiner, when Rush Limbaugh announced that he had terminal cancer, well, he said when Rush Limbaugh got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, he said, "I loathe this effing man." And he had absolutely no sympathy for him and the fight that he was dealing with his cancer fight. These people are ghouls. These people are absolute ghouls. These alleged decent, morally superior liberals, leftists, didn't have the decency to just stay silent. You know, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Didn't offer prayers. Of course, they don't believe in God, so why would they? Or condolences, basic humanity, none of that. None of that. They celebrated. Prominent voices, not just the fringe trolls on TikTok and X, but prominent voices like Rob Reiner. And when I was reminded of this, it really irritated me, because aside from my dad, Rush Limbaugh was perhaps the most influential figure in my life that helped me establish my conservative ideas. I was watching Rush Limbaugh on TV when I was 15, 16 years old. And I had friends back then that I would mention this to, and they would either be like, who, or they would try to argue with me. And of course, at 15, 16 years old, I mean, those arguments lasted for all of a couple seconds before squirrel, you know what I mean? But that's when I remembered that was particularly galling to me, that people would react the way they did when President Trump just refused. And it's not, he didn't mock his death. They kept trying to push that narrative. He didn't mock his death. He just refused to play the game and say nice things about a guy who said heinous things about him for years. And everyone was so quick to point out how he expressed condolences for Charlie Kirk's family when he was assassinated, and sympathy for the family. And great, he got one right, a broken clock and all that. But they forget how nasty he was when Rush Limbaugh was going through his fight. Just this is the hypocrisy that they are showing by demanding that Trump take the high road and pretend that everything was great. And they took the exact opposite tack with Charlie Kirk. Or the conservatives who died during COVID. There were a few prominent conservative talk show hosts and stuff like that who refused to take the shot, got COVID, passed away. They celebrated that. Even when I got sick, I had people who I thought were friends say that I deserved it because I wouldn't take the jab. Now, obviously, I didn't die, so it's not the same thing, obviously. But it's the same sentiment from these people who claim to be so morally superior. They can kick rocks. This is when I first saw President Trump's statement, I had the immediate reaction as a human being that probably wasn't, not probably, it wasn't in good taste. And I still don't think it was in good taste, but at the same time, I am not going to condemn the man for saying what was on his mind. He says what is on his mind all the time. Why would this be any different? Why would this be any different? People love him for the fact that he says exactly what he thinks. Well, this is what he thought. And he was completely justified in thinking that. So as far as I'm concerned, that was the exact right thing to do. And I know people are going to disagree with me. Oh, well, I've had this time to think about it and remember how these people really are. I don't care. I don't care. They can kick rocks. Speaking of kicking rocks, now that that rant is over, and I do not plan on talking about that again. Rant over. But as I said, speaking of kicking rocks, President Trump issued he extended a travel ban to a number of countries. And yeah, BZ. Well, his son was a known drug addict and was in and out of rehab from the time he was a teenager. So that obviously played a factor. But President Trump issued a proclamation where he continued and expanded the travel ban against a number of countries where we have no idea, we have no way of knowing who people are when they try to come into this country. And the countries, I'm not going to name all of them, but a lot of them: Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, obviously, Iran, obviously, Libya, Somalia, obviously, Sudan, Yemen, Burundi, Cuba, Togo, Venezuela, obviously, Burkina Faso, Laos, Mali, Niger, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, Syria, and the list goes on. This is what we voted for. The government's job is to keep us safe. And if you can't verify who people are when they try to come into this country, then you are playing Russian roulette with our safety. And President Trump is not doing that. He's not bribing. He actually cares about the safety and security of this country. And then in the Palestinian Authority documents, we know that they want to infiltrate. They want to infiltrate and they want to do us harm. So why would we even entertain the idea? Even if they had decent documents, why would we let them in regardless? And I've said before, I've said on social media, I am all for a complete and total ban on immigration, legal and otherwise, for at least a decade, at least, to give us time to sort out this mess, to give us time to get rid of all of the people who want to do us harm and who are here illegally. And then after a decade, merit-based immigration. Do you have an advanced degree? Can you contribute to this society? Do you have a decent business idea that you want to employ people in this country? Okay. All right, now we can talk. But this is insane. And I applaud the president for doing this. And honestly, I'm not even sure it really goes far enough. But I'm happy with what he did do, but there's probably more. Isn't it amusing how everything is essentially a few variations on a theme? Government is corrupt, institutions are corrupt, you can't trust government. Government is all for empowering itself. Yeah. And anyone who bucks that trend, anyone who tries to do something different, who tries to actually do something for the people, they will fight you tooth and nail every step of the way. But this is his job. This is This is the point of borders. This is the point of border security. We need to know who is coming in, and we need to be able to say, no, you can't come in. And why this is controversial at all, it's not really a mystery. We know why the left is against it. But if you actually love this country, this shouldn't even be an issue. If you love this country, this should be just another Tuesday. Oh, we're not letting these people in. Okay. Why not? Oh, we can't tell. Good. Keep them out. Why is it? The only reason why people are against that is because they hate this country and they hate you. That's it. There is no other explanation. If there is another explanation, please let me know so that I can be educated. But I don't think there is one. These people are ridiculous. Pretending that this is some sort of bigotry, pretending that this is racism. Speaking of, do I have this queued up? Because of course they, of course they asked our immigrant in chief, Ilhan Omar, about this, and she had something ridiculous to say as usual, because pretty much everything that comes out of her mouth is ridiculous. But listen to this.
President Trump signed a proclamation yesterday expanding the list of countries with full or partial travel restrictions from 39 to 39. That's up from 19. And Somalia is on that list. What's your reaction to that?
I mean, the biggest worry of the new executive order is that it does separate families. It doesn't create an exception for U.S. citizens to have their family members be able to come visit and celebrate milestones with them. And so this is...
You know why? Because they don't leave. That's why. And even beyond that, again, we can't verify who these people are. They can say this is my uncle. They can say this is my cousin. And it could be a terrorist that paid them to let them come into the country under that guise and false papers. We know that the Somali community in Minnesota is just a bastion of corruption and fraud. So why would we even entertain that? Get out of here. Just exactly. She herself said her brother was her husband. Exactly the point. Exactly. The lack of self-awareness of these people sometimes is astounding, because she knows that's the rumor out there, and that's what she chose to say. Really? Wow. Oh, these people are ridiculous. Yeah, the Washington Free Beacon does have a good article about this. I mean, the only reason she's not cooked is because she represents a district that is going to vote for her just because she's Somali. That's it. That's it. So I think we are, unless they come up with a way to expel her, unless they actually use the power that they have to expel her, but we're stuck with this. We're stuck with this. I don't think she'll be able to win a Senate seat if she wants to if she tries to go for a promotion or anything like that. But I think we're stuck with her for the long haul. Anyway, that's enough of that. We are almost out of time, and I wanted to talk about this because whenever you come across celebrities who say something that you agree with, that actually make a decent point, the tendency is to say, oh, this person is coming around. This person is becoming a conservative. This person is becoming a Republican, whatever the case may be. And it almost never works that way. It almost never works that way. Remember Kanye West? Yeah, exactly. So that brings me to this broad right here. And it's so utterly ridiculous. Cardi B trashes America while in Saudi Arabia. Convince me to come back to ghetto US. You know what? I am not going to try and convince you to do anything of the kind. Stay there. Stay there. You deserve each other. Cardi B on social media trashed the United States, telling her fans, y'all need to convince me to come back. Noting that she hasn't seen a bum in a Middle Eastern country. And everyone she encounters seems to have that real money. I'm not gonna play the video. I can't deal with her voice right now, but she said she's starting to not like America. Well, good. Stay over there. Stay over there and wear your burqa. Stay over there and not be able to drive. Stay over there and get married off to some Saudi Arabian prince who enslaves you. I don't care. Stay there. Y'all need to convince me to come back. I don't know if I want to go back. Then don't. Don't. Stay over there. Stay there. We don't want you. Your music sucks anyway, if you can even call it music. She says, look at this country, look how they treat me. Well, yeah, they treat you okay now because you're a celebrity, an American. You stay over there and see what happens. Yeah, and this is what she thinks she's going to be able to get away with if she were to stay in Saudi Arabia. Anyway. She has the money to go wherever she wants, no reason to beg her to come back. Well, I would beg her to stay away. These people are ridiculous. Yeah, she doesn't know where the less fortunate are in those countries. She doesn't. Anyway, that is all I got for you this time. I will keep trying to make each show better than the last one. If any of this hit home for you, please take a second to like and subscribe and share with everyone that you know. We are 2 away from 700. Please share so we can reach that. That would be a great Christmas present for us to be at 700 on Christmas. That would be amazing. But yeah, share with everyone that you know, because we are not just here to run our mouths, but we're here to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope for future generations. Future generations that hopefully won't have to be subjected to Cardi B's madness. Anyway, if you want some cool gear, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs that we have over there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.